The Republicans emerged unified from the convention in Milwaukee. Former Congressman and New York gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin is here to talk about what it means for the nation and New York. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. I wonder, this new unity that the Republicans are showing, is this something you think the party can maintain through November?
We have to, with the goal of being able to save this country. There is a cause that unites us. Coming into Milwaukee, the stakes were raised even higher after last Saturday's attempted assassination of President Trump. The party is strong, and it became stronger over the course of the convention when some of President Trump's top rivals from the primary, Ambassador Nikki Haley, Governor Ron DeSantis, both spoke, as well as others. So I feel like this party is stronger today than any point that I can remember, and it's something that is going to be important to not just maintain, but to continue to grow upon as we move forward in an effort to reach out to undecided Democrats and independent voters who are willing to vote and listen to Republican messages and Republican candidates, maybe for the first time ever in their lives.
Well, so, that leads me to the next question. There has been an effort during the convention to change Donald Trump's image, to make him look more of a unifier. And his own speech, he talks about unifying the country. Do you think this is going to work to bring in more independent voters, more suburban women, people who might not have looked at the Republican Party before?
Yes, undoubtedly. And President Trump had something happen to him in his life last weekend that makes you reflect on a lot, makes you think deeply about certain aspects of life and the stakes and the path forward in a way that maybe when he woke up last Saturday, they weren't as much top of mind, and where he has throughout this past week inspired many others through his fight and his courage and his bravery, not just last Saturday, but since. I think will send a tremendous message to anyone who's listening. But for these voters you speak of, they have specific substantive issues that are important to them and their family. They care about having a stronger border, economic prosperity, energy independence. Whether it's fighting crime or having a better foreign policy, you ask these voters what are most important to you, and they have issues that they want to hear where Republicans stand and where Democrats stand. And throughout this past week's convention, there's been a substantive discussion on what conservative solutions are to these challenges to make quality of life better inside of our cities, in states, regardless of whether it's a red state or a blue state, or for our country, which is certainly at a crossroads.
The Democrats are trying to very hopefully to flip the House and take control of the lower house. They've eyed 5 Republican freshman seats in New York. I wonder now, given all that's changed here, do you think that the 5 Republicans they're aiming at are as vulnerable now as the Democrats thought they might be?
Democrats have to outline, just like Republicans have to outline to their supporters, their donors, their voters, their volunteers, what their path is to the majority. And for these battleground seats in New York, some are held by Republicans, others are held by Democrats. It is going to be a battleground here in this state to decide control of the House of Representatives. That is still a reality today, just like it's been at every point since November of 2022. These Republican incumbents in districts that Joe Biden won in 2020 are now facing a different political reality, a different political earth underneath them. Districts that Joe Biden had won in 2020 are now polling with President Trump up. In some of these districts where you have Republican incumbents now, they're no longer challengers, they are now incumbents. They are able to spend the last 2 years being able to make relationships with their new constituents. And it's something that they continue to focus on doing a good job. They can be even better and stronger in the polls come this November. I think that Allison Esposito in the 18th Congressional District of New York has a great chance in her race against Pat Ryan. I think Mike LaPetrie on Long Island, facing a difficult race against Tom Suozzi for sure in New York 3, but there's a path to victory there in a district where we've seen a number of Republican upsets in recent years and where we performed very well at the top of the ticket in 2022. So to answer your question directly and as succinctly as possible, New York absolutely is going to be a battleground in November.
So here's my question. Does the quotient change, the vulnerability quotient change, if President Biden does decide to step aside and there's a different person at the top of the Democratic presidential ticket?
No, the fact is that inside of New York, in these suburban districts, President Trump is polling up. And there's no indication that if President Biden was not the nominee and it was Kamala Harris as the nominee, that President Trump wouldn't be up anymore. I haven't seen any type of data or anecdotal information to confirm that Kamala Harris would be performing better than Joe Biden in these battleground suburban districts, not just outside of New York City, but there's also a competitive district that is in the Syracuse media market upstate. These are tough races. The Democratic registration is something that is in the favor of the Democratic Party, but these Republican incumbents have been working hard to define themselves, to be independent, and as their goal might have been to try to outperform whoever would be the top of the ticket, not knowing that President Trump would be the nominee when they first came into office in January of 2023. Now I think the top of the ticket is even stronger than they might have anticipated back then.
So my next question is this. Some people have expressed concern about a trend towards isolationism on the part of the Republican Party. You know, less support for NATO, no aid to the Ukraine. I wonder if you think that the American image abroad will suffer if President Trump is reelected as president.
Well, we need a strong NATO. And to have a strong NATO, all of our NATO partners should all be fulfilling their commitments to NATO. And if any one country inside of NATO is disproportionately carrying a heavier burden, that lack of investment by our partners is something that, in my opinion, actually weakens NATO. As it relates to Ukraine, the funding, and a lot of funding, that's been sent to Ukraine over the course of these last couple of years needs to come with accountability. And there are Americans who want to know how their dollars are being spent. An effort by a member of Congress, let's say inside of a committee hearing, to ask for accountability on how dollars are being spent and accounted for shouldn't be met with some type of an attack as if they're committing treason to ask these questions. It is their job. Whenever foreign aid is being sent anywhere in the world, it is the duty of those in government, whether you're in Congress or in the executive branch, to make sure that that money is being spent wisely and as effectively as possible. Also, whenever we are engaged in any foreign conflict to any extent anywhere in the world, it's important that we are defining what winning is. What are our goals with engagement? And right now we are heavily engaged in Ukraine. It is important to let the American people know, what does victory look like? What is the end game? What is the timeline for the goal of being able to achieve it? Because what we don't want to do is ending up with a never-ending conflict that we are invested in overseas, to the extent that our own resources to protect ourselves becomes depleted and we are unprepared because we got into something without clear enough objectives to achieve from the get-go. So during this presidential race, I think it's an important question to ask, is what is your goal for a conflict in Ukraine? What is your goal for the conflict between Israel and Hamas? What is your goal as it relates to North Korea and Iran and China and Russia? Foreign policy is on the ballot, just like so many other issues that are so important for Americans. But I think asking these questions as a representative, whether you're a senator and now a senator who's the nominee for vice president, or you're any other member of Congress, I, as an American and as a taxpayer, would hope that everybody would be making these, asking these questions and making these demands as far as defining what victory is.
Lee Zeldin, thank you so very much for joining me. We're going to have to leave it right there for now. Next up, a rising star in the City Council.